2026 right around the corner, the question regarding our preparation, not just for the elections, but the post-election season, is one that is ever critical. 2026, like every election cycle in Uganda, poses questions in regards to our political status, our economic status, and the social and human rights interplays that come into regard. With me today, I have a very illustrious panel to delve into this discussion, who I shall let introduce themselves. From the extreme right coming in, the gentleman, starting us off.
Hello, viewers. Good afternoon. My name is Arinda Isaac Rugambwa. Yes, I'm an industrialist and nice to be on this show.
Thank you, Isaac. The only lady on the panel.
Thank you, Danita. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Denise Ayebare. I am a law student at Makerere University, as well as running an initiative called Better Life International.
Yes, our resident globetrotter and the gentleman right next to me.
Thank you so much. I'm Conimus Ndiamhachi, a statistician, and I'm running an initiative called the Youth Word to Hand. Very happy to be here as well.
Of course, we're very happy to have you. And this is sure to be a very, very, very dynamic topic. So, Isaac, I shall bring you into the conversation right now. I would say on the panel, you're a resident political expert. So before we go into the 2026 elections, I believe it's pertinent for us to understand the progression of our electoral seasons thus far. You can take us as far back as you would like, but I think 2021 is of pertinence, and of course the preceding events on our political spectrum to help us understand what the 2026 elections would look like.
Well, thank you, dear host. The 2026 election are we ready? From the time we got independence, 1962, now this is 2024, we have had a series of seemingly organized, I can say, in italics, elections, and we pretty much have seen how the bedroom politics of this country is run. But from what we can tell from what happened in 2021 and the other season, I happened to actually participate in the 2021 elections in Kawale district at the municipal level, and I was on ground. I remember my current MP, Nicholas Kamara, running up and down, and the Mtebides and whatever. And also I was aware what was in the central region here and other subsequent regions, Chenjojo, where when it comes to the projections basing on our history, I cannot say that we have scored at least even a 20% of an organized modern election. I think we are still failing at that. We have not yet come to realize or appreciate, one, on the side of voters, why we actually are voting. Two, we do not have a system that organizes us or that has given us a platform to shape people for leadership. So when we talk about elections and the entire saga and the monies and the disadvantages or the repercussions that comes with an election, they are so gross. Yeah, they are so gross. And 2026, basing on 2021, I cannot say that it's going to be any better. That I cannot assure the citizens of this country. And I cannot also not say that I know the results, but we can try to guess. But at the end of the day, I can assure our dear viewers that
There will be an election.
there will be an election, first of all, and two, we shall have a very wonderful president out of that election.
Oh, very dynamic as usual. A resident politician. Yes, Denise, I will bring you to the conversation right now. in regards to just from the average citizen's angle. 2026 is right around the corner, but then of course the election cycle begins much earlier. In fact, right now we're in the election cycle. And yet, as an average citizen, do you feel connected to this? Because our connection to the election it manifests in the level of seriousness we give these decisions. The decisions that are made, it manifests in the type of, in our showing up at the polling station. It manifests in the interest we give to the manifestos of our politicians. So do you as a citizen feel like you have been involved enough? Do you feel connected to this election cycle? Do you feel anything aside from maybe passiveness in regards to it?
So thank you so much, Danita. And I think ever since the Electoral Commission, I think around August, released the schedule of how the elections are going to look like, there's been a lot of criticism against the Electoral Commission. Because most of the people, whether nationally or internationally, they usually say that the EC does not carry out civic engagement, civic education as it should be. I think the only way we know that there are elections, it's because NRM registration books are open and they're moving around the villages. Really, that's the only way you're able to tell that an election is coming up within the country. But you don't know your right. Where am I going to vote from? There are very few people that are interested in voting. Even that applies to most of us. And I think when Isaac says that we are going to know the outcome of the election, now that's where it becomes bad. Because since 2005, when they passed the referendum of Uganda being a multi-party system, we have not seen it reflect within most of the elections, most of the cycles and all that. We have been just under one system, which has been the president, which has been NRM. Literally, he has been the system. And we have not had a different system where you're necessarily going to have any other operations. So the question of saying, are average citizens or an average voter included when they don't even know their rights becomes problematic, because this is the time now you're going to see most of the roads starting up some sort of constructions. I think you've already seen that. Within the city, they're starting up different constructions. In my village, probably I know they're going to come and bring some of those high cars and what's so not, trucks. And then after the election, they will drive them back to Kampala without doing anything. They're just going to show you, oh, we have worked on this road. Oh, we have done this. We have done this. And I think when you look at either our GDP or anything, it doesn't reflect in who we should vote for. And I think that speaks to how much engagement we have with the citizens. Because it's now that I'm going to see my area MP more than I saw him in the past 4 years, past 3 years. He's going to be more active in 2025 as he is going for 2026. This is the time he's going to attend barrios. This is the time he's going to show up for parties. This is the time he's going to make show-ups just because he wants people to know that he has been there. And you know, when you do that, you create an illusion that someone has been there for you. And I think this goes back into our systems. Like, I'm a student of history, not a student of history, I'm a lover of history. And I usually like to quote what Jomo Kenyatta said, that when the whites came, we had the land and they had the Bible and the gun. They taught us to pray with our eyes closed, and when we opened them, they had the Bible, they had the land. We had the Bible, they had the land and the gun. And that has continuously reflected in what our elections look like. Because 1986, when we ushered in a new government, people expected to have things like economic prosperity. It is a time where they expected better out of systems that had been broken, institutions that had been interfered with, privatization and all that. But fast forward, you can't even have a voter turnout that is more than 57% from the previous election. And out of that voter turnout, only 13% of that population was even young people, the youth. And then we want to change the systems we do not want to be part of, because like Senior Kada has said, we already know the outcome of the next election. So why should I go to vote? I think there is that reluctance of people showing up to vote or doing anything.
Do you think the reluctance is justified?
Honestly, I think there is a new wave that is coming up. I really don't think it's kind of justified, actually, because how many terms down the road have we had freedom of press, like what happened in 2021. Social media closed, nothing. Until now, Facebook is still, I think they forgot to switch back the wire that connects Facebook back to the world. And I think these are some of the things, because when you look at where we are ranked, I think we are ranked around the 120th in the press freedom index out of 180 countries. And you see that our freedom of press, anything, because we are in a tech world or whatsoever is happening. If you can't have change online, if you're threatened with a computer misuse act, you have a lot of things that are going to curtail your participation, even as an average citizen. And I think you saw what happened with the demonstrations, because you are likely one of the most people who followed up and tried to be assured and whatsoever was happening with the demonstrations that happened against corruption. And you find that all the mechanisms, all the means that you have for change have been frustrated. But you see, even with that reluctance, I want us to know that the voters of these people are not on Twitter. Literally, no one on Twitter knows what is happening with your area MP, whether he has been interdicted or whatsoever has happened and all that. And we usually want to assume that if I go on Twitter, TikTok, I'm going to create the change I want. No, it's on the grassroots. The people who cannot even access electricity to charge a phone, you have to first take it to the next city. And that reflects a lot in the development. Last time I was having a conversation with a friend, and they told me the only big landmark in Kitgum is Total petrol station. There is nothing else. And that speaks to most of our rural areas in Uganda. Because you find something says Pride Microfinance welcomes you to this municipality. No building, nothing. Wishes you a safe journey. That's the next thing you see.
Exactly, and you just walk, you just travel through a town, bushes on the either side, and you wonder there's maybe one random building.
Exactly.
If even maybe there's an incomplete structure that you wonder it houses God knows what, and that's it.
And you look at that kind of development since 1986, and you wonder what kind of wealth creation, what kind of PDM, youth livelihood program, these programs they're talking about, I don't see who they are empowering really, because they're only empowering the likes of Isaac, clearly, or the cadres or the people in power. It has been like... Yeah, so you find that even a person in the grassroots right now, when they're going to vote, they'll come and give them little money, salt. They'll give them cooking oil, and they will vote because they're living in a world of literally no alternatives. So that kind of reluctance has continuously been created, where you have inflation, you have unemployment, young people are disenfranchised, they can't turn up. If they turn up, the votes are rigged, so they feel like there is nothing they can use to change the system.
Okay, before I proceed to another question, to another panelist rather, you mentioned something that is of pertinence, that the voters of these people are not online. You're not going to change anything from Twitter and yet when I interact with most of our age mates, one of the things I have found consistently across the board is maybe if a communication about something new was made, they would say, oh, I had never heard of that, I didn't know this. Even the most educated of us are grossly uneducated in regards to their history, in regards to their civic rights, in regards to their mandate they have. People will believe that your MP is supposed to build a hospital for you. And these are individuals we studied in the same classrooms with. It is not a humorous matter, actually. It's rather disappointing. And so the question comes, of course, the person at the grassroots is of pertinence, but the person on Twitter is equally problematic.
That's so true. I agree with you. I don't think we can put aside the role of what social media does when it comes in creating awareness and all that. But I want you to do a survey and ask how many young people have ever gone back to vote or are in the registration book. Because we had a 57 voter turnout, about 57 from 2021, and only 13% of that were young people. Did you vote?
Yes, I did.
Did you vote, Danita?
I was too young.
No, you were already 18.
Oh,
Exactly.
I was 19. No, I didn't.
Exactly. So you see that we who want the system to change so much, we are so detached from the grassroots where the change occurs. Because if you go there and say, we do not want this LC5 chairperson, we do not want this member of parliament to exist, then you go down and vote for them. But it's our grandmothers, it's our parents, our aunts and uncles that are registered to vote. And we who want the change, will wait for when someone is voted and say, oh, they've been involved in corruption, they've been doing this, which is okay because you're creating some sort of awareness. But I don't think my grandmother will see that maybe my area MP, I usually like to say his name, Jim Mwezi, has not done anything in the past. I mean, he has not done, when he goes back and gives them the yellow T-shirts and does what? They're likely going to vote for him again because they don't know the things he has done. Even as a minister, even as an area MP, he has not done anything for them. But he goes back, says one or two, attends 2 church meetings, attends 2 circle women meetings, gives out goats and hens, and people are going to vote for him. We who know how much they get, what kind of funds, what things we're entitled to, are not down to create that awareness. And I think the illusion that social media creates is that you're likely going to have a different president. And that's what happened in the previous elections. Because Noop had a lot of following online, that it created an illusion that even down there, my grandmother is going to vote no.
Kamala Harris.
Yes, I didn't want to go there. Yes, yes, but that's the same thing. Because you have, the media has been created to sort of favor those who are in power, even when we know what is happening as maybe people on social media trying to create awareness here and there. There are people who are not engaged. And those are the people who go to vote. So,
did you vote?
Who, me? No, exactly.
Did you vote?
Myself?
Yes.
I didn't.
Okay, so we'll make it a 1 out of 3 of each of us is going to vote.
Wow.
1 out of 3, that's 1 out of 4, actually. This is 1 out of 4.
That is sad.
That's a disparaging number. That is a disparaging
But I think for the youths now, we need to stop crying for the good Lord to bless us with the change. Because what we term as change, actually we do not know what it takes to effect the change. I was impressed, and I have always been, and I actually always participate in these central region organizations. The youth usually have those arrangements. Walk to work, walk to freedom, walk to, and I like them. But you'll never find such things in Kabale, in Bale, in where, and this, in that.
I think they had an anti-corruption walk in Lira, but I believe it was constituted by the MP, the NRM.
So it comes back to, are we really putting in that much effort to create the country that we want as youths in this country? Are we doing enough to, instead of, what we do most is go Twitter, retweet, repost, share a picture. I hate that guy. The
meme.
But we actually never, if a quarter, if one of us out of the 4 is voting, and yet all of us actually are on social media, and, I think we should be more of the doers than sayers. I think we are doing more of the talking.
Because that is what we can afford.
No, but even the speaking is being stifled right now. There's freedom of speech, but is your freedom guaranteed after speech?
Exactly. But you see, when we were growing up, I used to stay in the village. I'm a village kid. We used to have those relatives who used to come. We used to have those relatives who used to come back home to vote. Yes. And then they say, your uncles, your aunts from Kampala are coming back. And then you ask yourself, what have they come to do? They have come to vote. But that is not something that maybe Isaac is going to leave Kampala. Or our generation, where you ask Danita where she has grown up from, she's like, oh, I'm from Chanja. Where is your home? It's in Chanja. and you expect them to go back to the village to be able to vote. So I think it also has to do a lot with the kind of generation and how so unfocused or so. We're so reluctant about politics. And usually I think politics, it's not what we want it to look like. It's health, it's education. Everything is literally politics. So if we're not interested in it, then you likely are not interested in the entire system.
No, but then I think yes,
what brings about the interest is the result of it all. It is in the past when we thought that actually a vote could change something. Today, like my brother said, he did not want to express clearly that even when we are in 2024 now, and the election is in 2026, we already know the outcome of the election. That's a problem. So you don't expect me to travel, for example, from Kampala to Ntungamo with the mind of voting when I actually know what the repercussion of my vote is going to be. So it is actually not a blame to the youth because we are the majority. Yes, we know what our voice can do, but it is suffocated already. Even when you stand towards it, you know the result is not, your efforts are not going to pay off. So probably it is intentional that the government and the people up there have set up the system to be the way it is. That we know our efforts can't yield anything.
So it's like subconscious disenfranchisement. So you are indoctrinated to believe that your vote is worthless. So why should you vote?
Doesn't have to change.
We are back to reality. We actually
We're
not
back to reality.
This is the reality. Even when you do what, even when you mobilize masses to vote against someone, if some powers have decided to still maintain that power, still that power is going to be maintained somewhere.
But,
so there's no.
My friend, you see, power. For those of you who have watched
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Power is a curious thing. You cannot hold power for eternity, you know. And those who hold power, they understand that concept so well. That's why they try to consolidate it. Yeah. When you say that the youths can't do anything, I think I might take a diverging road when it comes to that. We have seen youths actually stand up. Afghanistan, we saw the youth stand up against, human rights
What I'm saying
violations.
is, the youth cannot do anything through an election.
Why don't we try it out? If we are not voting already, why don't we first vote and then we see the results? We might want to say that maybe the election will be rigged. It will be. Let us vote first, because youths are already not voting. So you cannot 100% be sure that once you vote. So are you sure that your vote is going to be rigged?
You see, when we're speaking from AC rooms, we don't get to statistics. Statistics show that actually majority of the youth, when we are speaking and we know what is going on, we forget about the brothers and sisters in the village who actually do not know what is taking place. As economists, I might know the direction to take, but majority of the youth, we are the OBO statistics recently showed that the youth comprise of the people between 18 to 30 comprise of 24%, and below 18 it is 53%, something there. Obviously by 2026 we expect the percentage of the voters between 35 below to be something like 30%. That turnout is really so meaningful. It will bring about something really strong. But the difference is the people who have this information that actually our power can do a thing are even not a quarter of that 30%. So what I'm meaning is, yes, the election is going to happen. That we can't dispute, because the roadmap has already been drawn. The strategic plan has already been made. That we cannot shun it. But the result we know, and as a youth, there is so minimal we can do to deviate or to divert the result. Because the majority of our colleagues are not into what we are into.
The ones who know the information.
The ones who know, like me and you. Actually, majority have been compromised that we think now we are convinced with the small we have. Now those who do not know, actually the people who should rescue us. The problem, I do not know how to explain, but the problem, me and you, we will go back and, give out the information that is,
Actually, I think it was Denise that mentioned something very pertinent in regards to the difficulty with which it takes to, okay, not the difficulty per se, but you must be a devoted individual to go and vote. I must get up, go from my home to go to Mparo or Ruchiga to start voting in another society. Now my parents vote in our neighborhood and it's just within walking distance, the polling, and still I will not go there. Why? The process, first of all, is tedious. I must go for the entire day, line up, which is okay, that is one thing. But to even get on the voters register is a whole other dynamic. It is a whole other dynamic in place. It seems that not only is it hard for you to, does it feel inconsequential for you to vote, but also the system surrounding you actually becoming a voter, despite, it's not just 18 years of age anymore. You must have, and gone to subscribe, and then they have to have verified you, and then you have to have been put in the register, and then maybe you are confusedly put here, and then it takes a whole period to alter you and put you there and do this. It's a whole system, isn't it? A whole system surrounding our fundamental right that seems to be set in place to incapacitate your vote. Do you believe that, as technology advances, we're very, how should I put this? We're like well-bred chicken. Right?
Broilers.
Yeah, we're like broilers. Things have been, information has been accessible to us. Generally speaking, a lot of things have been accessible to us as a generation. So when you make something hard, you repel us. We're a generation that has been utilized is, do you believe that the structure surrounding our electoral, and maybe I have preempted the discussion, do you believe that the structures surrounding our electoral processes, or what it takes for you to become a voter, and then what it takes for you to vote, and then what it takes for your votes to be counted, and then what it takes for that whole structure, do you believe that they're actually setting you up to be a voter?
First, going back to our constitution, I feel like the framers of the constitution, with all due respect, they were somehow they were hoodwinked. Sort of. You look at the constitution, the line in which they put democracy. Because when Museveni was coming to power, he promised us a fundamental change. Little did we know that it was his own fundamental change and his family. Now, in 1995, these people came and made that constitution. When you look through the constitution, Article, is it 59, which expresses who the voter is. Then Article 60, it now forms the Electoral Commission. Now, the biggest mess, I don't know if I was in that parliament, I don't know if I would have ever made such a mess. Article 62, they said now the Electoral Commission, the leadership of the Electoral Commission is the mandate of the president. The president is the supreme judge who becomes the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who becomes the vice chairperson and everything. Now, there is no way you expect, probably they did not know because there were still other articles that could confine Museveni in a corner until 2004 when he scrapped it off, that now the term limits are gone. It is now either me or me. I have to run until I hear. Now, up to today, it is Museveni, the office of the president, with all due respect, that appoints who becomes the EC and who runs the whole process.
Even our judges, interestingly, are appointed by the executive.
That I understand. But now this is a different, it should be a sovereign body. Now, then you don't expect to appoint me to do something on your behalf, and then you expect me to betray you. It is like betrayal. Because you have appointed a person you trust. You trust to execute for you a job. So you don't expect me to deviate from what you expect of me. So the whole process is a mess. To me, I don't see a reason as to why we should actually even be discussing 2026. Well, 2026 is decided. Now, what we should probably, if Museveni still has something for this country, I'm not a politician, with all due respect, we should now sit down as a country and start discussing peaceful transition, not going into the election. The elections are not going to bring anything good for this country. They're going to demolish us the more. That's for sure. Everyone knows. We are going to have more of our brothers go to prisons, more violations, more deaths, and nothing else. What is going to happen, you know, everyone knows. We should not masquerade and deviate and pretend like we do not know. We know how the electoral commission is going to run its thing, everything. In 2021, European Union refused to give us observers because they said whatever recommendations they have been giving towards the elections, we have not observed. We have not taken them serious. We have always dropped them. After the elections, they give us recommendations, we bin them. America refused because them they said, now we know, according to the events unfolding, these elections are not going to be transparent. Now, the same events that happened before are the same events happening today. Nothing has changed. The same appointing authority still exists. Do you expect anything to change? So myself, we have reached the point of hopelessness. The only person that can rescue us from this dilemma is probably Museveni coming on the table with his so-called patriotic voice. Sit down and let us discuss genuinely the peaceful transition. Not go back into elections. It is okay to because it has become a ceremony. Even if after 5 years we go back to do what?
You know, there are other positions.
Okay.
We have other positions, guys.
You see, I am almost becoming pessimistic listening to Onesmus, because every time he says, with all due respect, he goes on to
It's so
so disrespectful. But I think the only reason I can't be that pessimistic, it's because hope is the most inspiring word in history, and I think that each generation has a purpose to serve. And I think maybe that's our purpose, probably.
To be hopeful?
No, not to be. We're in the business of being optimistic, really.
But we have been hopeful since 1986.
No, you listen, you are not yet born. That's why you know only one regime. But also, again, this is the thing. I think there is no fatality to things like bad governance and things like underdevelopment. Or there is no such fatality that certain people are going to continuously be in power forever, or certain people are going to continuously be poor forever, or even to an extent that the rich or the wealth are going to continuously be enriched. And a good example is that 70 years ago, where Asia stands outside Japan, poverty had a name, famine had a name, and that was China. When you looked at countries like South Korea, their GDPs was lower than Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana, and other countries. But when you look at Singapore, India, these were countries which were known for poverty. If you mention poverty, someone would say the synonym is India. You mention famine, they tell you it's China. And this has become something to Uganda, where you mention corruption, they tell you Uganda. You mention extreme poverty, Uganda. Like, that is the thing. But I don't think there is certain fatality to such circumstances. That's why right now South Korea is likely the 13th in the world among developed countries. China is the second. India, these are countries that are now leading. I think when we realize our purpose with the frustrations that have been put upon us, like I tell you, our fellow youth, our generation, they're out on the streets selling key holders for a day. That's what they do for a living. Someone in downtown is selling money for money. They give you change for 20K, 2,000 notes. They give you back 18,000. That's what they do for a living. And this is the reality. You know those kids' things that they're selling on the road, when even no one is buying. And I think the unemployment, the inflation, how the economy is running, I think we have seen enough. We have had enough. And I don't think how you put it in terms of being pessimistic, there must always, blood has to be shed. People have to go to jail. That's the truth. In such systems, for them to change. That's why you have the French Revolution. That's why you have all those revolutions, because that is history. It shows you that nothing is going to come on a silver platter like we have been raised.
That is what I was saying.
Exactly. So
I was saying that there is no purpose for going for an election.
No, first show up and vote and then
because
tell us.
even when you go to an election,
just have
that
one
blood is
chance.
going to shed whatever for nothing.
No, it's not for nothing.
Even use as legal terms.
History.
Yes, I think the first thing
Haven't
we
we
should
shed
do.
blood in the past?
We have, and we have to shed more blood. The first
Are you
thing,
willing to shed yours?
Exactly. Now that's where the point is. Are we willing to? Are we willing to go to those streets?
I find I'm not.
Because elections is not going to the streets.
You see, the elections first take up your constitutional right of change of government. If you can't vote out the president, vote out that corrupt MP that you've always had. You as a young person, I know elections have been monetized, everything has been made difficult for even a 26, 29-year-old to come and stand against an MP. You tell me the resources Kahindo Tafilia has or Jim Weze has. He has $2 billion buildings existing all over the country. And these are the people you want to stand against. And elections have been monetized to an extent that even when you want to create that change by going to the parliament, you can't go there. So what's the first thing? Vote out Jim Weze, go in and show your vote, and then you have evidence. You can take them to court.
How many times have you voted out Jim Weze and you're still here?
No, me, I haven't voted ever since I was
your
born.
constituent.
My constituency, of course, they always vote him in. He gives them goats and hens, I've told you. So, like, that is the thing. Like, the awareness you want, let it begin with you. Tell your friend there, let's go and vote. Let's go and do this. But history will have to judge us for what we have done and whether we are willing to just go on Twitter and say this, or we are willing to just go there and want it like on a silver platter. But there has to be something we need to do beyond voting, whether it's have a commitment and know that we are going to do this, we are going to strike, and blood has to be shed.
Okay, then thank you, Denise. Before we continue, we have come to the half mark of our show, so we shall be delving into a short break. Thank you so much, viewers, for staying with us. We shall be back with you after this short break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We are happy to still be with you for yet another Tuesday afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from that short commercial break. Right now we are discussing the very pertinent issue of the 2026 election that is right around the corner. Before we went on our commercial break, we had delved into the youth focus of it all, the youth interest, the youth organization, and what it would take for the young people to alter the dynamics of politics in this country. So to take us into the next stage of this discussion, Isaac, I'll be bringing you into the foray again. We speak of how should I put this? How elections have been, not even elections, but post-election season has been such a highly monetized structure, right? It comes from the fact that your granny in the village is given some salt to vote. Your chickens and goats are handed out in. Denise, where do you come from?
Rukunjiri.
It could have from Rukunjiri. Chickens and goats are the order of the day. They couldn't even give them a cow. Shame. So, it's such a highly monetized structure. Do you think that plays into the type of people we have feeding into joining our political space, but then also how we see them conduct themselves post-elections? I know we had a very interesting gentleman in our district, in our home area, and I think you might be familiar with it, that mortgaged his house for an election lost the election and his house has been swept away. If you, it's a very interesting dynamic. So once someone joins these positions right now, the first phase is loan repayment. I know we've had a number of proposals for institution of control mechanisms, maybe putting a cap on how much people are supposed to pay, are supposed to contribute to inject into the election. But that of course brings the question of whether or not the magnitude, the reach will actually be achieved and the like. So the question arises, I think I already asked you the question regarding the monetization of the electoral system. Do you think it plays into the kind of people we witness and the way that they conduct themselves post-election? And then also the way the populace interact with the election season itself.
Okay, it's thank you. You ask a huge question.
Yes,
like
it is.
a
I will
lot
trust
of-
you.
Now, post elections, we usually have a very, very hard time reconciling ourselves to the previous us before the election, especially the voters. You see, the major victim out of all this is the participated, not the participant. The participant usually gets a few things, like my friend who mortgaged his house, you know. But the wananchis, the people on the grassroots, actually, who I don't want to call it blindly, I think it is due to the lack of leadership structures. And leadership structures, I think not even just structures, institutions that should be grooming leaders. We shouldn't be having that much. A vote should not come at a cost of a bar shop. Yet someone is going to legislate policies that are going to affect you for the next 5-6 years. The maths do not, add up. But again, when we come back to, you see, my brother introduced the concept of 86, and then 95, and then 2004, and then 2008, 2021. We have seen what this country has gone through in terms of the higher tops trying to establish a ground where they can seemingly consolidate power, which of course I disagree with, and I say it's not going to be forever. It's not a forever assignment. No, it is not. But what is the people on the ground willing to sacrifice for the betterment of their country? In some countries, the leaders stood up, but in other countries, it is the people that had to stand up. It is either way. Either Ugandans stand up for the good of their country and fight for what they believe the country should be, or else these dynamics. I think my brother was trying to propose that we actually should deal away with elections. Let's sit and agree and say, man, be the president, because it has lost meaning. It has lost meaning.
But then do you believe maybe you are narrowing down the election to one thing only, one man? The election is more than just the presidential election to start with. And it's more than just that.
I think there you're trying to tickle me, but if I could ask if I could ask you now, if I take you just to our August house, if I could just give you a sneak peek into, if I exclude a few people like Sem Junganda, Matthias Boga, and a few, there are not more than 6 people that sustain that August house out of 500 plus people. We had scenarios of the speaker telling people, stop farting in the August house. Live session. And those are the leaders who have elected. So it is not, you see, the fish starts rotting from. You just said it. That means that, one, we the Wananchi have a problem. We do not know what we want in terms of selecting the leaders. 2, our organization, I think, we have not yet appreciated the concept of being a member of parliament and actually what it means to represent people. Once these people reach there, they sit and their job is to, like you said, service their loans that have brought them into power and what have you. But that is not the concept.
I had a follow-up question, but I believe you're concluding on something.
Yes. Now, it comes down back to how the country has been organized from 86 to 2024, if you want to convince me that I had a rumor that parliamentarians are going to start voting the president. Now, what that means is actually your vote might be
Negligible.
so, and you haven't voted. You might never get a chance to vote a president of this country. So, well, what I want to say is we have a system that is in form of a riddle. It is a picture. It's a painting, a beautiful painting, but we have not, we don't participate in making the canvas, and that is the problem. Once we just outrightly let people through the sieve, or once the schemers, I usually want to call them schemers, they skim through the, and rig and snatch a vote here and there, and get there, and we start crying again about the same things, 2021, now this 2026, 2031. The system is the same. Inflation is going to be more than ever. The other time we lost 60 billion from Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda.
And lost is a lost.
Somehow the money was missing on Bank of Uganda. So that is the country we have. You get?
No, but then it's not like it's an isolated incident in Uganda as well. Bank of America, I think it was in 2015, had, what was it, 21 penetration. Oh, it's like Bank of America can.
You see, the data. When a widow has one lamp, of to light the entire house, and they find it missing, they might terrorize the entire village. Uganda, our currency, even you cannot weigh it. And if you're telling me that we can even afford to make those, the other time the secretary NRM lost how many billion, and she around 4-5 billion, and she did not even she was missing until she was. So once we are in a country where people have demarcated, they have cut out their pieces of cake, and they're actually already enjoying it. So if we do not stand up and we hello, hi. That this hello, hi thing, I think we might need to borrow some leaves from 1917 Russia, from 1947 China, from
I hope you know your bosses are hearing you.
So me, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of standing up for the betterment of this country. Yes, that one I can tell you outrightly. People are dying. People are rotting. I have been to Mbale, I have been to Arua, I have been to at least a few parts of this country. When you go to downtown here, where most of the people in Central thrive, when it rains, you don't want to stay in that area. But these are the people, I think Central region gives the highest number of, in terms of tax returns. So when it comes back to now standing out and defending this country with the last drop of my blood, yes, I'm ready.
Oh, I'm so glad, because I'm not. So, anyways, yes. So, we're speaking about, very interestingly, someone loses, what is it, 4-5 billion? Guys, I lose 400-500, and it's a bit of a trap, and I do not notice. That is a dynamic. That is a really huge dynamic in place.
I didn't get you. You lose 400-500 and it's
Yeah.
400, 500 Uganda shillings, and I'm shillings, the coin. The coin. The coin that will sustain me. On your worst days, you realize where that can take you, especially as a university student. I think I'm speaking to the right crowd. But you lose that kind of money, and it really, really spills into a dark part of your soul. Your existence is threatened, and yet someone is losing this amount of money. But the one that they have access to that amount of money in the first place is very questionable. But of course, we cannot speak to maybe illicit sourcing of it all. But even our MPs' salaries, even their allowances, even the like, it's a very hefty order that they have dealt for themselves. You know, they have arranged the buffet, served themselves, and now they're just giving directives to the guys in the kitchen. No, we want this, we want that. Do we have the right structures to govern the financing of these parliamentarians?
Oh, well, the right structures come back to what I've already said, that we already do not have leadership institutions. So that means that people do not go to parliament to lead. People go to parliament to, put something back. They are not coming to deliver, they are coming to just, snatch, which becomes so much, fatal. And of course now when it comes to the way parliament business is conducted, that serves actually, for your information, they even don't eat that food. They go out. Yes, I know they have that budget, but you find them in, so, and then you realize we already messing up. We already have lost the track of, what are we supposed to be doing? I've not seen a parliamentary session that speaks to the problems of the Wananchi. The other time, Makerere students were dying because of hunger.
So,
Yet,
I mean, they went to the northern region. They had the session in the northern region.
having a session in northern region on whose budget, and what was the challenge?
They wanted the people to know that they were.
You see, I was talking to my colleague and told them the most lucrative venture today, where any younger man should invest and don't expect any regrets. You either start up a church or run for a member of parliament.
No, I disagree with you. You either be in the army or a politician.
Now, what resources do the army people have?
You're joking.
But you either are a politician or you start up a church. But you see, this only goes back to how we have been brought up as a country.
Yes.
When you promise people that at the end of the 5 years, visible things are going to be done. Like my sister said, you bring trucks, assemble them on roads because it is election time. And then after elections, you drive those trucks back to Kampala. That is all over the country. There is no remedy for you at the end of the 5 years. The only thing you have to do now is coerce these people back to you with the money. Nothing else you can do. This has started way back, and it is not yet going to end in 2026 now. So that is not a question that should be disturbing us. Simply because the government can't deliver.
We know.
It is deliberate.
Okay.
It is deliberate. They have to bring these pennies and deceive our parents. Because this is all they can afford giving to them.
Okay. But before you proceed, you've said something very important. This is how we're being brought up as a nation.
Yes.
So I want to speak to you about, I think, what the one thing all of us have across, the one, how should I put this? The one thing that cuts across each and every one of us, the education system. We've gone through the same education system, curriculum-wise, whether delivery was differentiated, whether the standards of delivery were differentiated. The point is, you're supposed to learn the French Revolution at this age, in S5, if you're doing
I went to
European
UPE
history.
and USA.
The curriculum was still the same. Standards of delivery might have differed, but the curriculum was still the same. You were supposed to learn chemistry, physics, the like. So, is our education system the kind that creates a populace that would, first of all, be interested in the 2026 elections, know what they want out of their, like Isaac mentioned, that we don't know what we want out of a leader, and then take up a stance when that leader is not living up to, but then even beyond that, know how to take up a stance. We know that maybe you're supposed to take up a stance. People believe that it must be via this angle, this angle, this angle. There's a distinct lack of, even when you go on Twitter, you'd notice a distinct lack of education on the proper procedure someone is supposed to take. And yet I saw this in contrast with our Kenyan brothers during their rebellion. People were very, very well educated. The average citizen was very, very well educated. Do you believe your education system has created a man who would be interested and who would know how to proceed and who would know how to choose?
Now this does not. I'm not going to blame it on Museveni. This started way back.
Yes.
Our colonial masters mastered the game, and they arranged for us a life that we all want to move by. We know that after when we are born, we are inducted into nursery, through primary, then secondary, university, then you get a job and work. That is the life we all want to live. That is why when we are in primary, we sing those songs of, no, what do you want to be when you grow up? We used to sing it in Runyankweli. You start singing, I will become a doctor, I will become an engineer in us. You're not thinking that how the country is going to be even after you graduate and become an engineer. All your focus is making it to that stage of being a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor somewhere. So now Museveni has used that also as a tool, that even the small that had been left there has been scrapped. It is hard now to find someone graduating with political education from a university. It is confined in there in social sciences. No, it is offered under social sciences. It is not a standalone course. So they confine it there. So, you know, so we are just brought up that way. Study, get a job, which jobs actually not there. Study, graduate, go to the streets, and that is it. Hustle your way out. And then for people like my brother, who maneuver and find their ways to close to the people with the power, they come back. I'm wondering that now he's encouraging us to go and ban things and remove the dictator. I did not expect that from him. But now people of his caliber come to us and tell us, you know what, now that we are comfortable here, it is okay. It is okay. Which shouldn't be the case, for sure. Which shouldn't be the case, for sure. I think something has to change, and it has to change with our generation. Now that we know what to do, I think we have to advocate for the right things to be done and be done rightly.
Okay, thank you so much. Denise, I will bring you in as a last question for the evening, and I would also ask that once you'd also give us your brief closing remarks as you elaborate on this question very briefly. We've had questions. We've had, I think, one of the key areas, the key tenets of this discussion has been transition. Transition. And so they say, let's, Conismus has mentioned transition. We bring the gentleman to the table and we discuss this is how you're going to lead, and then we'll launch transition. But transition to whom? Do you see any prospects of what dynamic the country can be transitioned to whom, where, on a very niche level? Do you believe that you can see? Don't look at
I think you're putting me in a very difficult position, but
You better believe in yourself.
Get chance to cast your vote now.
okay, so I think there are a couple of things that as Ugandans we do. We usually elect hyenas and expect them to take care of goats. And this has been the thing all over time. To an extent that when you have members of parliament, you provide them with iPads, which they don't even know how to use. You give them cars.
Where are those iPads right now?
I don't know really.
They have them. That I'm very sure.
They don't even know how to scroll or use them. You give them cars.
They are fashionable.
Exactly.
They want to move around with them.
You give them cars that they will never get to drive. They build houses that they're never comfortable to sleep in even. But besides that, there is something I saw that 300 billion is usually spent on eats and drinks in the Parliament of Uganda. And previously, there was a lack of 300 billion to sustain the UPE and USE program. And it is bad, like how Conesmas and Isaac have talked about it. When you go into those schools, when you're having to teach the new curriculum, you're likely going to use a stone as a mouse. That's how bad it is. You tell a child that when you use this stone, this is the right click and this is the left click. And that's what our education system has become, without even talking about healthcare or anything. But now, back to your question. Do we see any prospect leader that we should transfer power to? And this is a call.
Or maybe a dynamic or a group.
Yeah. True. Previously, I think that there are different manifestos, and I usually tend to disagree with NUP's slogan, and I'm just going to be open, because what the aim is that they want to remove Museveni. Their whole goal is about
their manifesto?
Yes, their whole goal is centered about removing Museveni, removing the dictator. But then the question is, after removing him, then what? And then this speaks again to things like ANT, which is what's ANT in full? Alliance for National Transformation. Mugisha Muntu. You see that he's again too brilliant for the people he's working for. He's so detached. No, the manifesto is too good to be true. When you read some of the manifesto of ANT, which is a very good, which could take us to a world-class something country, as a zombie nation as we are, as a failed state as we are. I believe he's so detached from the people to ensure that he goes on. When you look at the closest thing that would have, which is FDC, and you look at the divisions that have happened with the Katonga, and then you see that there is a lot of disunity happening. And maybe the senior cadre could argue that you had things like DP or anything. But I think what we need to do now is that, okay, what I'm pointing at is we do not have a prospective candidate as for now to be able to transfer power to even when we want to say. Because I would ask you, who is your candidate?
Museveni.
It is still NRM, because literally his manifesto is good. When you look at wealth creation, when you look at all these, I'm being honest. When you look at the manifesto, it is perfect.
That's the hopelessness.
The only thing that I'm telling you now is that implementation, corruption and all that. You talked about a constitution. 1995 Ugandan constitution was the best constitution that was ever developed by an African nation. When you look at our goals within the health sector, our priorities, they're some of the best that you would ever want to have on paper. World Bank, IMF have confirmed this, that Uganda has some of the best policies on paper. The implementation, the corruption that you have, the failed institutions, the exacerbated privatization, when you look at the external influence and anything that you would want to say, is what makes it so difficult for us to realize the implementation of some of these policies. And I think most of the selling points that NRM still has talks to most of us young people. It does. That's the future we want to see. But but exactly, we just never see that future.
What are you thinking about?
Like, I'm being very honest. When you look at the 10-point program, I think that he addressed the other day. When you look at it, wealth creation, a young person, your disposable income should increase. Oh my God, it is the best on paper. But then now you find that
I'm just not getting the point.
No, the point is, the manifesto is
because,
good.
Because that 10 points program was introduced in 1986.
Exactly.
For how many years now?
No, exactly.
We are clocking 40 years.
That's the point.
None of the point has been achieved.
No, that's the point. If other opposition parties or leaders try to sell to us the same as well as they package their manifesto, we would buy into it. Has Noop ever convinced you?
But no,
as a young person
is telling you that actually Muntu's manifesto is so good to be true.
Yes, because it's so detached from the people. It's so detached. Like, the reality, it is, we need to be realistic with what is happening on ground. Let me ask you, has Noop ever convinced you?
And for 40 years, do you say Museveni's 10 points program was realistic?
No, that's
yes, it is. It is actually very realistic.
Among the 10, what has he achieved?
Corruption.
What? Ladies and gentlemen.
Let me maybe say something. Mr. Conimus, actually it is no longer the 10-point program. They are now actually 4 points. If you have not maybe summarized it. But yes, these guys have actually achieved something. You will agree with me that the conditions we were in 1986 are not the ones we are in now.
I want to make a point.
95 to 2005 has been one era. 2008 to 2015, 2016, it's another era. 2016, 2024, it has been another era. We might disagree that the development that we expected has been slow, yes, but other sectors, in terms of...
It has not been there.
It has been slow.
Konmas, where did your father study from?
My father didn't study.
Exactly, but you have studied We have Makerere, we have UC. How many universities
Makerere
do we
wasn't
have?
there in 1986.
No. How
Let
many
me
universities?
make a
We are
point.
talking about, if it comes to education, how many universities do we have now?
Let me make a point.
No, but before
Just
you go,
how
but
many?
before
How
you go on,
many do we
In
have?
1986.
no, Codesmas,
In
let's say.
1986.
No, before
No,
Codesmas, you go
these
on.
people have made their point. Let me make this point. She said that actually Museveni has achieved on corruption. In 1986,
No,
go
no,
back
no,
and
no,
look.
no, 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 no.
Why not
I'm
address
getting
something?
it.
No,
Why not address something?
You're getting
I
it
really don't
wrong.
think that's what
No,
she's
I
saying.
mean, you asked what has happened to the 10-point program, and I've
You said
clearly
corruption.
Yes,
Yes.
corruption,
No, corruption has
because
done away
because
with
it
it.
has done away with the
Implementation.
implementation
That is
and
the
everything.
challenge
But
we
then
want
besides
to
that,
come on. I
Codesmas,
want to make
let's
a
be
point.
so
I want to make a
realistic.
point
Before you
about
make
that.
the point, let's be realistic
Now,
and
people are-
understand that
Very
no
briefly.
matter no matter how much you want to disregard NRM, and this is not me saying that development should be beyond the absence of war and the presence of peace. We need to understand that there has been some sort of development that has existed, even not to an extent of other countries or our pace that we would want it to be, given that there are other very many circumstances that have failed it that we're trying to fight. It is because in the absence of corruption, in the absence of bad governance, in the absence of institutions that have failed,
saying
in the
of
absence,
corruption?
I'm saying in the absence, that would have even been better. Now, those are the reasons why we have still failed. But you need to acknowledge that there
Now,
has
can I
been
make my point?
some sort of development.
Please make your point very briefly.
Now,
As we
in 1986, when Museveni came to power here, he told us that his major aim was economic transformation, pointing out corruption as one that was basic, that had left Uganda into shambles that he found. In 1988, the Auditor General made a report that involved the office of the president as they had rounded the amount of 20 million shillings. By then, 20 million was big money. 20 million shillings in the budget of 1987, 1988. You know what Museveni did? Museveni laid off workers and he reinstated them in 1994. Now, for all that Museveni has spoken about, was because you remember, obviously Uganda does not have a good history. We had lost all the foreign aid.
And we the writers of this history.
We had lost all the foreign aid by the time Museveni came to power. So whatever he spoke about was to bring about this foreign aid. Little did our parents know that actually he was going to use this aid for himself and his family.
You're so bitter.
No, I'm not bitter.
Your last
I'm being
point, your
realistic.
very, very last point.
Yes.
Not giving me.
What my last point, and of course, which is now, I just want you to respond to this question.
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't hate Museveni.
No, I will definitely. I don't either,
No, we haven't
and I'm not
believed
saying that
that.
you should. And in case
We
you
can't
did,
believe that.
you're still
No, we don't
justified
believe it. We
in
definitely
doing
believe
so.
you don't hate.
Now, and that is, does even care.
He doesn't care. I know.
Doesn't care if you hate
I
it.
know, maybe
So
not.
now, we have to agree on certain things. I acknowledge the fact that, yes, the current leadership system that we have in Uganda has not been the very best, or has not delivered to maybe even an average, seemingly educated Ugandan, which is true. But we must also acknowledge that there has been something done. It might not be as significant to the level of your appetite, which is definitely okay, but it is there. Acknowledging that something is there, and then maybe telling us that it lacks here and lacks here, in as much as you might tell me that corruption has been there, they have highlighted it, they have talked about it.
Yeah, I
Yes,
want
it
to
is
say
there, but it does not.
All the economic
it does
policies
not.
that Museveni has brought to this country have been based on the concept of ceteris paribus. All factors kept constant. But now, ceteris paribus does not apply in practical things. You don't say that the policy. No, you don't say that the policy that you're going to introduce for the youth is going to be the same policy in Western Uganda, the same policy in Central Uganda, the same policy in Northern Uganda, because the factors that affect the youth in Central Uganda cannot be the same as the factors that affect us here.
That is so true.
And all the way, Museveni has implemented policies
Universal policy.
because I think he has sat back and said, now this one will work, he passes it without question. Museveni today laments as to why he scrapped off UCB. which is corrupt. Was it in 2001? Because he said now it was they were corrupt and so he couldn't move on with this. Today, recently, was it in September? That's when he said now, I think Mutevere misguided me. After Mutevere has died. So, the mistakes Museveni is doing today, probably he's waiting for one of his senior cadres to die. So you can say now, I think this person misguided. He's telling us Mutevere is the one who caused him scrap in the UCB.
I'm about to die.
So I think he's just, the way he's driving this country, he's just in his own world. Thinking about something, he implements it tomorrow, and he moves on.
I think we're
Full stop.
universally, boxing this man as
I love
as
Museveni.
an unintelligent gentleman with no level of strategic thinking, and I think that would be a mistake, a fundamental mistake a young person could make, underestimating someone who has, there's that saying of fear the old man in a profession where men die young.
I respect Museveni.
No, but that's not the point. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of the show. I have seized the mission, or we will stay here for the rest of the day. So I will ask us to give our closing remarks. Very brief, and I emphasize on brief. Starting with Isaac, moving to Conimus, and then the lady in the show will give us the final.
All right. Thank you, all dear listeners. It's been a pleasure, having this show. My few closing remarks would be, I will still encourage the youth to stand up. Do not put down the tools. Please keep up the hope. A better Uganda is coming, and that better Uganda can only be built by you and I. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I would want to re-echo what my brother has said, that it is not over until it is over. This is a generation, and I think we have the biggest mandate to revive this generation. What I can refer you is to read and really understand, master Article 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, how the power belongs to you and how you have to use it in the most appropriate way. Use it in the way that you feel is appropriate and is good for your future and the next generation to come. I thank you.
Thank you. The lady on the show.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Just like both Isaac and Collins must have said, hope is the most inspiring word in history, and I'll repeat it. If you are not hopeful for anything, you have nothing to live for. There must be a day when Uganda shines again, and just to re-echo, there is no fatality to extreme poverty, extreme events that are happening in Uganda. We have to be the change we want to see. So turn up, interest yourself in the processes, and make sure you're registered in the book, and ensure that you vote out whoever you don't want.
Okay then, thank you ladies and gentlemen for staying with us this for yet another Tuesday afternoon here at the university debates. My closing remarks today are not going to be anything as detailed as they typically would be. All I'm going to say is, see you in the lines 2026, 2025. See you in the voting lines, and have a good afternoon. My name is Toriko Danita. I have been your host. Have a great day.